And we are back. It's InfoWars Nightly News. You just saw during the break a viral video on the web that basically was put together from an article that our guest, Robin Kerner, put together. And he's what you call a blue Republican. He actually coined that term. And he's got a pretty big volunteer organization out there, just as a lot of people voted for Obama because he claimed he was against all these wars and torture. Now he supported it. What Robin and others are saying is, well, now you've morally got to support Ron Paul. And we see a lot of Democrats, a lot of independents coming over and registering as Republicans, crossing over so that Ron Paul can win. And he's neck and neck. He's still got a very good shot and growing, despite the fact the establishment media has said that he can't win from the beginning. And this is really the secret weapon as independents, Democrats, and others that realize that the Republican and Democratic leadership are bought and paid for by the very same offshore corporate interest. It's key to have them wake up and come together. And this video that we just showed you is a great way to educate people on how they can do that. So I wanted to get Robin on with us to talk more about what he's done. And it's just another example of what one person can do, taking action, joining with others. It's had a great response out there. Robin, thanks for coming on with us.
My pleasure, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, tell us about your organization. Tell us about what you've done and where all this is going.
Okay, well, it started with an article that I wrote, I think back in the summer now. It was published on the Huffington Post and some other websites, and it was called, "If You Love Peace, Become a Blue Republican Just for a Year." And it made a big impact. And I was basically saying, look, if you voted for Obama because you don't like crony corporatism, because you do like civil rights, because you don't like wars against people who don't threaten us, if they were all the reasons you wanted to punish Bush and the neocon administration at the ballot box the last time round, then for consistency, if you were voting out of principle, the only thing you can do now is register Republican to make sure Ron Paul wins the GOP nomination with a view to having him go on to win the presidency. And it seems that a lot of people liked that idea, and they liked the term blue Republican, which was what I called such people, those independents and former Democrats who probably supported Obama, who are coming over to the GOP just for Ron Paul. And obviously, I would like us to remake the GOP in the image of Ron Paul so that instead of calling ourselves blue Republicans a year from now, we can just call ourselves Republicans. But obviously, we've got a long way to go. However, the exit polls in the primaries that we're seeing are showing that the blue Republican movement is burgeoning, which it certainly is.
And your website, of course, is then bluerepublican.com.
Bluerepublican.org.
Okay,
yeah.
bluerepublican.org. We had it on screen up there. We'll put it back up there.
Okay, great. And what I've done is I've been writing for the Huffington Post and for about half a year, and I've tried to kind of put together a body of work that you might be able to use to perhaps persuade your independent, politically independent and Democrat friends to consider Ron Paul. So I've got quite a few articles. Most of those are linked on bluerepublican.org and also on bluerepublican.org, which is very important. We've got state-by-state information as to what you have to do and when you have to do it by to be able to vote in the Republican primary or caucus in your state to help get Ron Paul into the White House.
Well, I mean, Democrats claim that they're for civil rights, claim that they're against crony capitalism and all this, but then clearly Obama is bought and paid for by the same interests that own Mitt Romney and own George W. Bush, and he's had all these military attacks on Libya and other places and said, well, it's not really war. Now he signed the NDAA to secretly arrest American citizens and have us disappear into black holes. I think that's really, from what I've seen, really waking Democrats up to the fact that Obama has betrayed them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been making the point in a lot of my articles that, the problem here is the system, and the main parties are part of that system. We have we have the Republicrats. We've had the Republicrats for generations, and now we need a president who, sees that problem and wants to change the system. Whether he'll be able to or not is a different question, but at least gets it. So yeah, I'm definitely making that argument, and I think the American people are waking up. They're starting to realize that, and especially the young, of course, who haven't been quite saturated in the mainstream media of this country, starting to realize that most of American life is really determined by what the Democrats and the Republicans have always agreed upon, the presuppositions of the system, as Noam Chomsky calls it, rather than what they appear to disagree on. So, you know, it's monetary policy, it's military-industrial complex, it's the fact that our mainstream politicians believe the Bill of Rights is just a damn inconvenience. All of these very fundamental things, which are really offensive to both conservative and liberal principles, you know, needs to be undone, and that requires a systematic and systemic change.
Well, I mean, a lot of people that have been politically aware have known for decades that the two-party system, as Carroll Quigley said, should look like there's differences on the surface, but actually be controlled by the ruling class, so that no matter what the people do, they can't ever get around that. But now it's not just political insiders that know that. I mean, this is just common sense, and there's this sense of desperation. And then along comes Ron Paul, who's always been consistent. Even though some people don't agree with everything he says, it's the fact that you know what you're getting. Ron Paul has diagnosed the problems correctly, and we see the entire power structure now flipping out from both ends of the political spectrum, coming after him. And I think that that's backfired on the establishment some. And the fact that the establishment media has tried to say, hey, you know, you can't vote for Ron Paul, he's a joke candidate. I really think that type of patronizing tone has backfired. What are you hearing from Democrats, independents, classical liberals, and people? I mean, why are they supporting Ron Paul?
I think for all the reasons we've just been describing. I mean, I think there's a certain sense that, you know, we've tried the so-called left, we've tried the so-called right, we've tried the main offerings on the menu, you know, the Republicans and the Democrats, and that for generations has brought us to where we are. And also, I think we're at a particularly interesting time, because the vote for Obama was this vote out of a hope for change. And there was such great expectation. So we now are experiencing a stark contrast between what we expected and what we got. So I think that huge contrast, that massive kind of disappointment, combined with the fact that all of these things that the Republicans do agree on are now hurting Americans, both in terms of their civil rights and their economic well-being. Those things together are opening minds to something else. And that something else certainly is Ron Paul, because, of course, as you know, Alex, Ron Paul not only has been shouting about these, I say shouting, he's been actually humbly and quietly talking about these problems for years. But he's actually predicted a lot of them. And if you're a young person who gets online and starts Googling some of the issues America is facing, and you can see this man standing up in Congress 10, 20, 30 years ago, telling us exactly what was going to happen before it happened, that makes you stop. Makes you want to listen to him some more. So Ron Paul obviously now is getting a lot of traction among independents, and he not only has done well in the Republican primaries, of course, he came second in the New Hampshire Democratic primary as a write-in, didn't he?
And I've seen the national polls where he beats Obama with higher percentage points than even Mitt Romney. And so, I mean, he's clearly the guy for people to vote for if you want to tell the establishment, Republicans and Democrats, look, it's a new ball game. We are wise to your scams. And, you know, I've pointed out that putting your energy behind Ron Paul, promoting him, even if he doesn't win because of election fraud and dinosaur media scams, we win by having somebody there pointing out that the emperor has no clothes and that this whole thing is a big joke. If Ron Paul wasn't in there, we wouldn't be hearing any sanity from Obama or the Republican stooges. I mean, these are hopelessly hypocritical, bought and paid for puppets. And the reason the system is so scared of Ron Paul is because he's not a puppet. He's a real intellectual. He's a common sense person. He understands that gangs and special interest, no matter how hard you try to make government be an instrument of good, they always take it over and turn it into an instrument of corruption. And all his predictions about police state are coming true. All his predictions about the collapse of the currency are coming true. Right as he reaches this point of being within striking distance of winning the nomination and the presidency. I mean, who out there can even imagine Ron Paul, this humble but intelligent, informed, true person, next to the teleprompter reading empty suit, globalist sellout, Obama. I mean, who can imagine what that would be like in a debate?
Well, absolutely. And that leads me to a point that I made in the original Blue Republican article, which was that, look, if the media are forced to compare and contrast Ron Paul and Obama because Ron Paul is the GOP nominee, then I think, it's Ron Paul's to lose. I think he's going to beat Obama.